My biggest hope at this point in time is I'd be thrilled to death just to have my hands back. Then we'll work on walking.
In April of 1995, Kip Householder laid in a hospital bed, paralyzed from the neck down, unable to move and unable to speak. Kip had been working on a Midspan without his safety gear.
I had a drop that had gone bad. Went up the ladder on a Midspan and I wasn't wearing a belt. And made the mistake of clipping a line and taking a bounce. I tried to hang on, but without the safety equipment, there's no way. It's unbelievable the force of the whip when the line goes. I hit the ground. I remember it well. It hurt for just a minute. I went to roll over and nothing moved. So I laid in the alley. I could look down it, see the cars drive by, listen to the wind blow. It was hard, about 40 miles an hour that day, and probably about 35 degrees outside. I laid there about 45 minutes before I was found. It was scary. I know I thought I was going to die.
It seemed like hours before the helicopter came. My mom and my brother met us at the hospital, and they flew Kip to Idaho Falls. And we went to go get the kids out of school and have a talk. That was the hardest thing I had to do. I had no idea how Kip was going to be, if he was going to make it. If he was going to make it, what was going to happen, what the damage was going to be. He had this great big huge bandage on his head. He had blood all over. He couldn't move. He could barely talk. And I had to explain all this to the kids. Kip would be asleep and all of a sudden wake up, but he wouldn't be awake. And he'd start talking about these dreams that he was having, you know, and for somebody to save him and things like that. And I would pretend that I was the person that he was wanting to save him. Calm him down, and he'd go back to sleep. But every time I looked at him, I hurt. And I couldn't not cry. And I really, really thought that I couldn't do it. Be the mom and the dad and take care of Kip and try and take Kip's place of the things that he used to do with the kids and around the house. I just wanted him back the way he was. And for a long time I didn't want to think about what happened. Because every time I thought about the accident and seeing him at the hospital in Rupert and in Idaho Falls and what he had to go through in Salt Lake just to be able to brush his teeth and everything, all the frustration, I didn't want to think about it. And there's days I still don't.
Kip spent 3 months in hospitals before returning home to Burley, Idaho in July of 1995. 10 months after the accident, he has regained movement in his arms, but still doesn't have the use of his hands or legs.
Therapy is 5 days a week, every day. Trying to learn to do different things with just your arms. gets real frustrating. Now when you want something, you've got to ask somebody to get it. It gets pretty demanding to hop in your car and drive to town because you needed a candy bar, or even just to eat a candy bar. You've got to have somebody go get it, or you got to have them help you open it. I work on the computer every day. What used to be for leisure is now trying to learn something for a job. Gives me something to do to keep me from being bored to death. You sit in this chair all day, every day. If you didn't have something to do, I think you'd go insane. I laid in bed the other morning and my 8-year-old son was sitting there. And he says to my wife, he says, "I wish Dad hadn't have fell." And my wife says, "Yeah, I do too." Tires, they got tires over there?
Uh-huh.
Are they big? We used to wrestle,
Like cars?
play ball. Is that all you did? Chase the girls or nothing? My daughter and I used to put her toys together, maybe have a tea party, or just watch cartoons, and she'd sit on my lap. And my oldest boy, he's a teenager now. He's wanting to learn about cars and doing this and that. All those things came to a stop. You go to town, watch husbands and wives hold hands walking down the street or put their arm around each other. I don't do that anymore. I got one hand driving the chair and the other one doesn't work well enough to be able to hold hands.
It affected all three of the kids in a different way. Sky was very quiet. He wanted to be away from everybody. He wanted to be alone. And that's pretty much what he did. Tyson, he was angry. So we blamed all this on Kip. Tawny, for months after the accident, cried herself to sleep. She wouldn't sleep. She wanted to sit on somebody's lap the whole time. She used to always think of her dad as a hero, you know, that could do anything, and, you know, and she still does, but now it's limited.
I miss doing things with him like we used to. And
Fixing cars. His hands used to get all oily.
I miss how he used to walk. It's like when it first happens, it's not okay, but sometimes you get used to it, sometimes you don't like it.
At first I felt sad, but now I'm pretty happy that he's out of the hospital and he gets to stay with us.
I feel okay what happened to him. It's okay, as long as he's around and he's alive.
I was probably like a lot of people out there. It's not going to happen to me. My mind was actually about 4 jobs ahead of where I was at the time. Let's hurry up and get it done so we can get to the next one. We can get this took care of today. I guess in the end, I should have kept my head on what I was doing at the time and not what needed done further on down the road. But we all tend to make that mistake. A lot of what happened was due to just being in a hurry. You go out, you do your job, you fly up the ladder or up the pole and back down. And I know there's more than I that was out there that does this with no equipment. And you think you're bulletproof. But it only takes one mistake to find out just how non-bulletproof you are. If I knew then what I know now, I would have took that extra minute to wear that safety equipment. I'd still be able to feel my kids when they grab my hand or when I run my fingers through their hair. You may work an extra 2 minutes longer during the day because you wore your safety equipment, but you'll always have arms and legs and hands that work just because you took that extra 2 minutes a day.
Don't put yourself or your families through this. It's not something I would wish on anybody. Think about when you're climbing up the ladder, think about your family. And if you didn't do something, how would it affect them? I wish that we could go back to that day and change it, just so the kids wouldn't have to go through this. But you can't.
This is the alley in which I took my famous fall from the ladder, April 13th, 1995. The midspan straight above me, I was working on when I took a fall off the ladder. So wear your safety equipment, guys, gals. Don't be the one laying in an alley like I did. At least I got my kids.
I do get to watch my kids grow up. I didn't die. Even though I can't do the things we used to do, I'm still here to talk to. They could have not had a dad at all. Is that your homework for today? And my daughter said once to all of us, I don't care if my daddy's in a wheelchair, he's still alive. That's pretty unconditional love. And gives you a little more reason to live, I guess.
Whether you're working on a midspan, on a pole, in a vehicle, or in an office, safety must be your first priority. Kip found out the hard way. There's a reason for the rules.
In a matter of about 3 seconds, you find out that safety equipment was probably the best idea you ever heard in your life. I'd like to see at any time, any place I was, if I drove down an alley and saw a cable truck, the guy up on the pole or up on the ladder with his safety equipment on, any one of them at any time. Sometimes I wish I was Mr. Cable Cop, and that's all I did all day was drove around and followed trucks to say, hey, you don't have your belt on. You want to try my chair? It's not a very fun one.